What's good, y'all? Welcome to Pretty Realist Podcast. It's the FemC. That's me, Shannon Nicole. Now let's get into this video. You know, I just had my birthday a couple of days ago. It was a really good time. We went to a really nice restaurant. I kicked that wig to the damn curb, y'all. I just can't do wigs. Back to the natural-esque of myself. I came across this video. A friend of mine actually sent it to me. There be so many videos that I be getting that like I don't even be having the time, neither the space to even talk about all of them. But I feel like I really needed to touch on this viral moment that is, it got the internet going crazy. The reason why I wanted to discuss this video is because I am also one of those people who survived on tips most of their young adult life, all the way up until I would say maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So I understand how important it is to be tipped properly. I understand that tipping is what pays a lot of people's bills. I know the importance of how tipping is, and I know the downfall of only surviving on working jobs that only tip you. Seeing this video definitely, it triggered me a little bit because I can see both sides of the situation. We're gonna go ahead and get into this video. Make sure you all like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Or they get it themselves. So you could have done the same thing. So I don't know what to tell you, but I'm gonna be sitting this back so you can get another delivery driver.
No, I'm gonna be getting my money back. Probably calling the
Get your money
cops.
back. Go ahead.
And then you get arrested for stealing.
Care. Go ahead and call the cops. What? Come on. Where's your phone? Come on. Bring it out.
Are you
Go ahead and call them.
That
like at this point, I don't care.
You are so spoiled. No one would want to tip you in the first place.
No, I actually get tons of tips. I get tons of tips.
Is all you do
Basically, she had an order. It was like $400. She went and picked up. It looks like she picked up a lot of stuff, a lot of cases of water. I see heavy, very heavy items. It looks like she carried it by herself, so she doesn't have any co-shoppers with her. She doesn't have anybody with her to help her. It really is shocking to me that the woman who is receiving the order said, "Look at how spoiled you are." But obviously, you're the one who's a little bit spoiled and a little entitled, because how did you think that it's okay for you to shop for this many items, but you can't tip them? The interaction, in my opinion, is definitely a little negative. And I could kind of sympathize with how the delivery driver is feeling. But of course, it's not always about what you say, it's how you say it. And I think that it could have been handled a little better. But we're going to go ahead and get back into it.
Why you guys didn't give me a tip with this big batch?
People. You
do you know how big this batch is? I had to load it into my car.
Wait, so
unload it and bring it to you guys. And I brought it to you guys early, by the way. No. And that doesn't matter, right?
No.
Yeah, because you're arguing.
Wait, did you accept this order expecting a big tip? Is that what this is?
No, I didn't even leave a tip. She just thinks that.
You know what's even more shocking to me is that there's a grown-ass man right there, but you didn't stop to help her with any of these items, because he's the one with the phone. So you're sitting there recording, nor did you take your grown ass over there and help her with any of these items. It's the entitlement for me. So who's really spoiled in this situation? I side with her. Let's continue.
She can get something
No,
extra.
I'm not talking about.
Did you expect to be?
If you appreciated my service, you would tip me. But clearly, you.
Why would I tip
care.
somebody who's angry?
Who's what? I wasn't
rude?
angry when I did all of this.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
angry now because you guys didn't tip me. You guys should have tipped me, and I wouldn't be angry.
Well, guess what?
It's that simple. It's literally simple logic. But
No.
clearly, you don't understand that,
you
right?
don't understand that
yeah,
you don't deserve a
You don't
tip.
understand it. How do
You
why
don't
don't I
deserve-
deserve a tip?
Look at yourself. Look at your attitude.
Why don't I
Look at your
deserve a
trunk.
tip?
Look at your trunk, and that's the answer.
I'm taking the food back.
You're stealing.
No, I'm taking it back to
stealing.
the store, and you guys will.
So you have the receipt and you're just going to return it?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
That sounds
what I'm
like a
gonna do.
waste of time.
Congratulations, you figured it out.
That sounds like a waste of time.
I'm working now. I'd rather you deal with it now. I'd rather not have to deal with you
You're
guys.
not getting
so
paid
that's
for
perfectly
it.
fine for
You
fine
literally
with
won't
me.
get paid.
That's fine. I'll go find another batch. I get plenty of batches.
With
this isn't
my
an issue
food
with
in your
me.
car.
No, I'm taking it back. Like I said,
Oh, so
then
you're
I'll
gonna
go get
waste-
it back.
But you're gonna waste
It's
time.
perfectly fine.
You're gonna waste
So,
time.
perfectly fine
I mean,
wasting time. I'd rather waste
look,
my
if you're
time.
wasting,
You literally are so stupid.
I'd rather waste my time than
if you're wasting time, then you're literally losing money. Like that's probably
Let
why
her
you
just-
need
I'd rather
tips.
not- She doesn't-
I'd rather you guys struggle with not having your food than me.
You
getting
would
another
rather.
batch.
Did you just hear
Yes,
yourself?
I'd rather you guys struggle because you guys
You
are doing
are
the
a
same thing to
wonderful
me,
human
not
being.
tipping me.
You are a wonderful.
And so are
human
you not
being.
tipping me?
Why? I mean, why are you the
So
first
you're not
delivery
tipping me?
person that has this issue?
Because I'm vocal. Some people may not be as vocal as me, but
Well, it's a lot to unwrap or unpack and put back. This is how I feel. The delivery driver could have handled it a little better. Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure if this is a skit. You know, we talked about this before. It seems that there's a lot of triggering ass skits going on online right now. But this isn't something that has not been happening. There is this culture of entitled ass people who feel like they don't have to tip.
Thank you. Just for future reference, drivers live off of tips. If y'all don't tip, we don't make money. This is how we feed our families.
Now, granted, if you go into a restaurant and you're picking up food, like it's not being delivered to you, people aren't using their gas. They're not using their backs and their hands and their feet to pick things up and put it in their vehicle and drive it to you. Truthfully, you don't have to tip if you don't want to. I might still leave like $1 or something like that. When I used to work in the serving industry, I used to make decent money. That's why I did it for so long, because I was able to pay my bills. I was able to have a car note. Now, granted, things weren't as expensive as they are now, but people tipped. Certain people didn't tip. People were very cheap. Love my people. I love everybody, but I used to have the hardest time with getting tips from my own kind. And I never really understood that. In fact, I actually lost a job because I confronted a customer about taking my tip off the table. These people ran me. I'm talking about they ran me. Now, if you don't know what running means, that means that like basically you have a customer and they're continuously asking you for stuff every time you come to the table, as opposed to just kind of asking you everything that they need right off the bat. You could be a good server and make sure that they have everything, you know, utensils, condiments, you know, you'll make sure that their water or their drinks are filled. There's always going to be those customers that will run you racket. I've even had situations to where customers will come in there, they won't even buy a drink, but they want to ask me for water and a whole bowl of damn lemons. I would sit there in the back with my coworkers and watch them make damn lemonade. You could have very well got your ass in your car and got your own groceries if you felt as if you didn't have to tip. You got to look at all of the items that this lady had to pack up and put in her car. You should know because you placed the order. You ordered cases and cases of stuff for this lady to put in her car. Now, if you're handicapped, if you're sick, if you're an elder, a senior citizen, and you can't really go out there and shop for your groceries, understood. You might even have to cook dinner for your kids and you may be missing some items and you need to get them quickly delivered to you because maybe you only have one car and your husband or your wife may be gone and you need to place an order real quick. Understood. This is an economy where a lot of people are only working off of tips because, let's keep it real, jobs are hard to find. There are certain people who be like, well, why do I have to tip these people? It's not my problem that they chose this job. You don't know these folks' lives. You don't know what they went through. You don't know if they may have a background that they are not able to get a decent paying wage. And let's be honest, every place around the country is not giving people $15 an hour plus tips, which is another thing that I wanted to touch bases on. Where did tipping even come from? How did we get to this point where people are only getting the bare minimum for tips? Why is it that there are certain places around the country that can raise the base pay for waitresses and bartenders and they still get tips, but then there are certain places that don't? Shocking to me that we have gotten to this point in American culture to where we don't understand that a tip can really help somebody keep their lights on. It can really help somebody put food in their children's mouths. We have to take care of each other nowadays because, as we could see, our government ain't taking care of us unless you have government assistance. Have a certain criteria in order for you to even get that, or you could just come over the border. So I wanted to look up, where did this tipping mess come from? Why has it been stuck at $2.13 forever? The results will shock you. Check it out.
I get paid $2.13 an hour as a bartender and a server. I should have made $150.81. But because I have to have Social Security, Medicare, and the income tax taken out, I was paid $9.28 for 70 hours of work.
Imagine if professors' income was determined on whether the students liked what they were being taught. Imagine if doctors were paid based on whether the patients were happy with the diagnosis. It just doesn't happen in any other profession. And the reason it happens in this profession is a history of race and class and gender in our country. It was an extra or bonus that aristocrats or nobles gave to serfs or vassals, but always on top of a wage. When the idea came to the States in the 1850s, it was because of rich Americans traveling to Europe and coming back and trying to show off that they knew the rules of aristocratic Europe. At first, Americans rejected it as a vestige of feudalism, said we are a democracy. But that idea changed right after emancipation of slavery, when the restaurant lobby wanted the right to hire newly freed slaves, not pay them anything at all, and have them live entirely on tips. So we went from $0 at emancipation to $2.13 an hour, which is the current federal minimum wage for tipped workers in the U.S. Actually, in most cases, workers who earn a sub-minimum wage get a paycheck that says zero. This is not a paycheck because the wage is so low, it goes entirely to taxes, which means they are living, just as they did at emancipation, entirely off of their tips. In 1938, when everybody got the right to the minimum wage for the first time in the U.S. as part of the New Deal, millions of Black workers actually were excluded. Farm workers who were mostly Black, domestic workers who were mostly Black, and tipped restaurant workers who were mostly Black, mostly women, were left out. So they have lobbied very successfully for 81 years, since the New Deal was passed, that they should be allowed to not pay their own workers, that instead, because their workers get wages, they should get away with paying $0, $1, or $2 an hour. For some, not all, I think there is a relishing of the power dynamic that customers have over these workers, that they are at their beck and call, that they have to put up with whatever they say or do, or however they touch them or treat them or talk to them, because they leave a tip.
I remember working in restaurants, and you would have someone say something extremely inappropriate to you, or you'd have someone touch you. And the thing is it would be the 28th of the month, the 29th of the month. And the first of the next month was rolling right around, and you had a rent check to pay. And so you were more likely to stand up for yourself and to reject sexual harassment on the 15th of the month, or maybe the 10th of the month, when you could pick up an extra shift to make up for telling that guy to go buzz off.
Workers in our industry struggle with 3 times the poverty rate of the rest of the U.S. workforce, use food stamps at double the rate of the rest of the U.S. workforce, meaning the women who put food on our tables can't afford to feed their own children. And a good third are parents, single mothers with children. And all of this economic precarity exacerbates that power dynamic that we talked about. Tips have been so decreased during the pandemic. And I think workers have kind of a light bulb or, realization has dawned that this has never been a reliable source of income. Workers are finally in this country standing up and saying, it's just not worth it anymore, and leaving this industry. If you listen to the National Restaurant Association, you would think there are no restaurants in these 7 states, that they've somehow, killed the economy, all jobs are lost, so no small businesses, when in fact these 7 states have higher restaurant industry sales, higher job growth in the restaurant industry, higher small business growth rates, and we have higher rates of tipping, because it turns out when you pay people better, they tip better. But most importantly, we see 1/2 the rate of sexual harassment in the restaurant industry, because it turns out when you pay women a full minimum wage with tips on top, they don't have to put up with as much from customers. They can reject harassment from customers because they can count on a wage from their boss. Even if you don't care about these workers, but you really want to be able to go back to your Sunday brunch with your friends, we have to change the way people are paid if we want to return to an industry in which workers have the ability to survive while working in restaurants.
They're getting paid this very low wage, and they still have to pay taxes. They still end up owing money at the end of the year. It's the same thing with the gig economy. It's the same thing with somebody who delivers what this lady does. It's the same thing that they go through, or a contractor. So even though they're making this money, they may have a base pay. And what I looked up is, I think Uber and Lyft, when you deliver for them, I think the base pay is like $3, maybe $4. It's up to $4 base pay. And they may get mileage depending on the company, but their tips, and they will still get deducted by the company. They don't get health insurance. There's not any type of workers' comp if they hurt themselves on the job. When I was working for Lyft, when I was working for Uber, and I actually had one of their cars, the company does provide insurance, but you still have to have insurance on your own. Because if let's say that you are working and a car hits you, but you aren't making any deliveries at the time, or you're not actually on the app at the time, they don't take care of you. I used to notice that majority of the worst tips that I got were from Europeans, Russians, oh my God, Germans, Asians, Indians. But yeah, I used to get the worst tips from them. I hate to stereotype if you are of that ethnic background, but some of my worst tips used to come from y'all. But y'all started this shit. Interesting. They created this struggle between the servers, the bartenders, and the people that live primarily on tips with the customers, because now they putting the pressure on them to pay a wage that the company should be paying them. Working in restaurants is wild, and it can become a toxic culture overall, because then you'll start having situations where you are resenting your coworkers when they're making more money than you. You kind of gloat and brag about how much money that they're making. So you're working the same amount of hours as another server is working, and they've made $200, but you've only made $50. So now you got beef with this server because they're making more money than you. This is not happening all over the country. Only certain places, certain areas in the country are creating this environment, and they're creating this environment on purpose. New York did eventually start paying their workers. I think they're making $15 an hour now, plus tips, which makes sense because it's expensive as hell to live in New York. California is another state that also upped their minimum wage when it comes to servers. When you go to California, if you've ever been to California, their prices are much more expensive, but they have been able to allow people to supplement their income by increasing the minimum wage. Hell, I saw something the other day where they're now paying Jack in the Box people and people who work at McDonald's $25 an hour. You got Waffle House right now that's literally out here trying to get $25 an hour, and security. Doesn't mean that we have to treat these people as if they're our personal slaves. They're not. They're people, they're Americans just like you and me who are out here trying to make a livable wage. I wanted to do a little bit more digging to just really kind of figure out exactly which states allow people to raise their minimum wage and which states are still stuck at the 213 threshold. Cali's paying $15.50. Washington's paying $15.74. Oregon's paying between $13.50 and $14.75. But all of the southern states, all of them, with the exception of Florida, I believe, $2.13 an hour. And now we know why. Because of systemic racism that is the basis and the foundation of where this wage came from. The fact that United States took something from Europe, but they only want to undercut. They undercutting everybody now. It's not even just a black thing. So many people out there who rely on this income. They were actually talking during the pandemic in Congress about increasing the minimum wage. And of course, they just kicked that shit out the water. Because some places, they have a tip out system where the bartenders, the SAs, meaning server assistants, and the bussers would all get a percentage of what you made. Because why am I responsible for paying a busser to do his job? Why am I responsible for paying bartenders for them to make the drinks? Can't you just pay them a livable wage? Now, granted, you might get lucked up and get you somebody where you might get a table and you get gratuity, but hell, it is some restaurants that don't even allow gratuity to be paid. Now, gratuity is usually when it's a 20% automatically added to a bill if there's 6 or more people. You used to be lucky to get those, but sometimes you'll run into situations where a bunch of people will come, right? Say that you got a party that's at the front of the restaurant. They are scheduled to have 13 people. You're excited, you're ecstatic because you're like, fuck, I've been waiting on this, but it's only 3 people there. They get the table, they sit these 3 people down, and if you have 3 table section, they'll take all these tables and put them together. Sit the 3 people down at the table. These people are literally holding up your section until their party arrives. So you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Sometimes you may be waiting like 35 to an hour. You may be waiting 35 minutes to an hour for their whole party to even come. But this is supposed to be a party of 13. 5 people show up. So you don't even get your gratuity. And your whole section is taken up. You get bad service, then of course not. I don't expect for you to tip people properly. If you're getting everything that you need, why can't you just tip them? Because you already paid the cost of the order. You obviously had $400 for you to get all of this food. You could have gave her $50. I'm sorry. The entitlement for me is too much. And if it gets to the point to where y'all feel as if these restaurants are not taking care of y'all might have to knuck up. Just saying. Y'all might have to come together, form a coalition. We have to do better. We got to start looking out for each other. We already know that this country was built on racism. You could definitely respect the fact that there are people out here who are human beings and they're working and doing the best that they can with what they have. Just saying. If you're not going to tip properly, don't pay for the service. It's really just that simple. When it comes to us knowing that we're getting into these jobs that are based on tips, you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some. But you live to work another day. I had to throw that in. I'm gonna get up out of here. Make sure y'all like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't shoot the messenger, only receive the message. If it's for you, receive it. If it's not, leave it. All right? Peace.